very good morning to all of you. I'm very happy to be part of this internship program, and I think I'm given a very big responsibility to, have an orientation lecture. It's kind of I understand that I have to inspire these our participants, and I think they are already motivated, and that's why they are here. So I'll just will let you know about what is space and what is it means to be a scientist. So that's what I'll be talking about. So let's move on. So okay, first question is, what is space? Here the space is the things which we see, and of course the things which we don't see. So space includes this both the things. Okay, what we can see around us and what we cannot see, it also exists in the space, but we don't know. Oceans, land, and everything. But where all these things are? Of course, that are on Earth. Everything is on Earth. Earth has its own atmosphere that we can see in this picture, that clouds are there. Now from Earth, what two major things which we can see is moon and sun. Okay, so these are the two things, and other than that, we can see the sky, of course. The Earth then makes a part of the whole big solar system, where we have our sun, of course. Then we have our neighboring planets, we have asteroids, we have comets in there, we have dwarf planets in our solar system. And this whole big system is a part of a nebula, from where stars are grown, planetary system is grown, and everything lectures will be more familiar with this kind of things, that is what is nebula and all those things. So just to tell you, the solar system is a part of big dust and cloud system, which is called as nebula, which of course has not only one solar system or not only one star, but it has many stars. So in nebula you can find so many stars. Then this nebula is nothing but a part of a galaxy. We know that we are a part of, our solar system is a part of Milky Way galaxy, which is spiral in the form. So this whole solar system, and with other suns and stars, we are part of a galaxy. Then galaxy is again a part of group of galaxies, which includes neighboring galaxies. So other small galaxies, big galaxies, different galaxies are there in the local group. This whole local group is a part of big cluster, and that is all which is there in the universe, which we are able to see, which we are able to detect somehow, not with the naked eye sometimes, not with the telescopes, but with the other instruments, with other measurements. With this all in our universe, we also have something we don't see. As I told, the dark matter is there, which is filled up in this space, and we are not able to see them. But we can somehow tell because of its energy and everything. So some properties are there which is hinting us that there is something which we are not able to see, but it still exists in the space. So this is all about space. So space includes everything, and if we come to learn about space or do research in space, then it includes everything, this Earth as our own thing and our sun. That is how we gradually do our research. Then first thing is that how did we come to know about space? That all these things are there in the space and all. How did we actually come to know about this? So where just think of an era, that is our eye, human eye, which is nothing but a natural sensor which can sense the light, visible light. And then what we could see, that was a big sky over above us, and It is nothing but a big screen for us. So in that era, imagine there is nothing, no entertainment was there, and people were having their life and routine life and everything. So they had nothing to do but to look at the space, to look at the sky and observe the things. So in that era, people actually observed the objects in the sky over the years and years, and they tracked their movements. So they came to know. So you can imagine that when man did not know anything about a star or sun or moon, just he used to look at the sky and used to think what these things are, and he just then tried, like, observing regularly. It made human curious because it was not steady thing. The sun was actually in, day to day, we know that sun rises and sun sets. So it made a human to think that how these things came into picture. The people started thinking about the space and observing. So after some time, when people actually they observed many things, then there came a scientist known as Claudius Ptolemy, who actually gave a concept of Earth is the center, and everything, all other whatever stars or planets we see, or even sun, that was his understanding by which he was observing. After years, one more scientist came, who is named as Nicholas Copernicus. He actually did not think that Earth is a center. He discarded that idea, and he put forth that sun is at the center and every other planet, including Earth, revolves around the sun. That's what he told. After that, Galileo Galilei came, and we know that Galileo Galilei is famous for his discovery about the telescope. So first, when Nicholas Copernicus gave an idea about heliocentric, we call in space terms Earth as geo and sun as helio. So it is kind of geocentric and heliocentric concepts. So when Nicholas Copernicus gave an idea about sun at the center, at first Galileo Galilei did not believe that, or he even discarded that idea. But as we know that he discovered the telescope, then he started his own measurements, his own observation through the telescope, and then he believed that yes, it was correct from the Copernicus that sun is at the center and everything else revolves around it. Then he actually tried to tell people that this is the thing. So he was a great astronomer, he was a great astrologer, he was a scientist. But was it that simple for him as a scientist? His life was that simple? So let me tell you a little small story about Galileo Galilei. When he actually told people and he wrote a book about his findings or his observations that sun is at the center, he actually was opposed by many people, local people, and of course at that time from the church. He faced many oppositions. So Pope was asked to talk to him, and Pope then told him that you please take, observations are there, you please take back, you are not supposed to publish that. So he just told that you write another book which tells Earth as the center and sun is revolving around the Earth. So you publish that book, and whatever your findings, whatever your book is, that it is not publishable. So that was the first thing which Galileo faced in his life as a scientist. Again, he was, of course, he as a scientist, he knew that this is wrong. because whatever written in Bible, the church people or Pope was actually telling him that you take back. But Galileo told, he was firm about his findings, he was firm about his observations, and he told, no, this is the only thing. After many opposition, he was actually house imprisoned for a few years or a year, because he was not accepting what Pope was telling. So he was first house imprisoned, and even after like throughout his life, he was just struggling to tell people and to make them believe that sun is at the center. Now at that time, it is like, as he was a great astronomer and astrologer, when somebody dies, a big person dies, he has to be remembered in a very precious place. But as Galileo, okay, so we were talking about, okay, let me repeat in short. So we started with what is space, that is which the things which we see in the space, the things which we don't see in the space, and what we see around us very near is the birds, animals, insects, and everything which we see. We also see oceans and mountains and icebergs and all those things. All these are part of our planet that is called Earth, and Earth has its own atmosphere, magnetosphere. From Earth, the big two planets, the big two things which we can see in the sky is Moon and Sun. The Earth is part of our solar system, the Sun's solar system, which has other 7 planets with us, neighboring planets, which has asteroids, which has meteors, which has comets. All those things are there, space debris are there in our solar system. This whole solar system is a part of a nebula from where the stars are produced. So in that nebula we have another stars, and this whole nebula is a part of galaxy. Our galaxy is Milky Way galaxy, and that galaxy is a part of local group which has many more galaxies. And this whole group of galaxies and other things like dark matter, everything forms a big universe. So that is what we mean as a space. Now, how did we came to know about space is because of our eye. That first, when human did not know about what he is seeing in the sky as a celestial object, whatever he is seeing, when he did not know, he was just observing through over the years, and he tried to track the positions. And that's how people came to know about something as, okay, they thought that Earth is at the center and other planets, including Sun, is revolving around the Earth. That is called as geocentric concept. And then came the sun-centric concept that Nicholas Copernicus told that no, it is not the Earth which is at the center, but it is the sun which is at the center, and other planets, including Earth, they are revolving around the sun. Galileo Galilei, when he discovered the telescope, he also observed these movements of celestial objects, and he also supported the idea of Copernicus that yes, sun is at the center. But Galileo Galilei actually faced many opposition in his life as a scientist, because at that time people used to tell that in Bible it is something else. It is not that sun is at the center, and that's why he was actually punished for home imprisonment for some years. And then when he died, that time also he was not actually cremated in a spacious, prestigious place, but he was cremated in a very small space. After around 20 years, people believed what Galileo Galilei told was right, and they accepted his idea and Copernicus' idea about sun at the center. So being a scientist in those era was not that easy. So now what about now? When we know so many things, so what is the life of a scientist now? So before talking about that, let's think how actually scientist, how to become a scientist, or what is it is to be like a scientist. So first you have to develop research temperament. So anybody, even a small student or small person or a big person who is very old, those all can have this research temperament. So what is this research temperament is all about? How to develop a research temperament? So first you observe, because we know so many things, we have to observe these things around us, how they work. So we have to give little time to observe these things for a period of time, and then ask a question, why this is happening. It is very simple. When Newton actually thought that apple is falling down, he just asked a question, why it is so, and then he came to know, okay, this is kind of gravity which is attracting this whole thing, a small apple, towards the earth. So he observed, he asked a question. Then you experiment. When you don't find an answer, you have to experiment. Once you experiment, whatever results you get, you have to interpret and understand what you have observed. So just giving a simple example, some research scientists, they actually had a problem that why sunflower is actually facing towards the sun always. It was a very small observation which we all regularly know this thing, but scientists they just think, why this is happening? Is it a biological clock of a sunflower, or it has something to do with the sun? So they observed, they asked this question, and they experimented. What they experimented? They took flowers, they planted flowers, sunflowers, then they kept it in sun for a few days, they kept it in greenhouse, they kept it in shed for some days, and they just tracked the movement of the sunflower. So what they found is, it is always when sun is rising, it is facing east, and when sun sets, it's in afternoon, it moves towards the west. That's what in all situations they found this thing. And finally they interpreted the results and they understood, okay, this is something to do with the sun's radiation, and that's what they observed, they understood, and they finally concluded, and they published the paper. And this is a very good paper in Science, which is a very big journal. So this all things, I call them as a vowels of science. You can see the first letters of these all things are A, E, I, O, U. So O is first, but what I call them as a vowels of science, which you should always grasp, and you can then develop your research temperament. Let's now talk about life of a space scientist. What space scientists generally do. So many people actually they get excited about the discoveries, the observations, telescopes, and many things. And now our own ISRO, our Indian Space Agency, is doing so well. Many people are motivated to become a scientist. But what exactly these scientists do? So what they do is, they think of a problem, they do a literature survey. What literature survey is all about? It means that whatever problem they have thought, they have to see what are the past findings, what are the developments in the field, and what is not resolved, what is yet to be resolved. So all this comes in literature survey. Then they have to think of how to solve. It means that we generally follow this thing, how to solve this problem which we have got. Then design an experiment, whether it is ground based, and as we are talking about space, we have to think it is a space based experiment or not. Then collect the data from your experiment regularly, analyze the data, for which one needs a programming skills, numerical method skills, analytical method skills. So all these things you have to know. After analyzing the data, get the results, of course, and whatever results you get, you have to plot or describe it in a visual form so that other people can understand it very easily. So when you plot a graph that something is increasing, something is decreasing, it is very easy to understand. Then conclude your results. Whatever problem you have started with, you conclude that okay, with this experiment I am getting a positive result, I am getting a negative result. This is not working, this is working for this particular problem or for this particular experiment. Publish the results, and there are ways to publish these results. One way is that you have to write a paper, or you can present it in a conference. A good part of being a scientist is that we actually, all the scientists, they have these conferences, whether national or international. So you roam around the world and try to tell your work to the people. So that's how people come to know about your work, and then move forward. Whatever you got and whatever is left, you again try to solve it for next term. So that is how a space scientist always do. Now, talking about my experience as a scientist, when I joined my institute in 2011 as a project assistant first, I was actually deployed at Allahabad, one of our regional centers of our institute. And there it is a very beautiful campus, it is a very big campus, but the thing was, only 15 people were there, and I was the only girl, or say women, as a staff member there. So in that 15 people, I was the only girl. So that was a little bit hurdle, or you can say, for me, but it did not stop me from what I was doing. After that, when my work started and everything, I just want to share one small experience about our experiment. Actually, we had an experiment, my guide actually, he had an experiment of observing lightning which occur above the clouds. So it is something known as transient luminous events, and that was first of its kind of experiment in India. Till then, people believed that these events are actually cannot be seen on Indian subcontinent. So people did not believe. When the experiment was started, then also people told that this is a failed experiment or anything. But we somehow, as a group, we were thinking that we should get something at least. So once lightning was happening, and then I started the camera, and for the first time we actually got 27,000 images. So from 27,000 images, we have to find whether we got some event or not. And I was just, throughout the day, I was just checking over the images, and finally some 7-10 images were remaining. And then I told my guide that no, we did not find any. But at the end, at the second last image, there I found something. And then we could confirm that it was, yes, first ever event which was observed in India. And that was a big, you can say, achievement for us at that time. So being a scientist is a very fun kind of thing. You just get involved into your problem, and just you grow as a, simple as how to think and how to develop, how to overcome your thinking, or how to overcome your problem what you are getting. So this is what all about becoming a scientist. Now for you people, I just want to share how to become a space scientist. Many people think that they want to become a space scientist, but they don't know the path. And so I just will say that either you have to go with Bachelors of Physics like BSc Physics, Astrophysics, Space Science, Atmospheric Science. Many fields are there offered by different places, different universities. So you do BSc, you do MSc, and after that you do PhD. Or else you choose a path where you can do engineering. You take engineering, space engineering, aerospace engineering, and then do PhD. So PhD is something which is must for to become a space scientist. And other than becoming a scientist, is there any other benefits of PhD? Yes, of course there are many benefits, such as first good thing is that you get stipend when you are learning. So it is learning plus earning experience. So in very early career age, you become financially independent. Second thing, doing PhD or doing research is never make you feel stagnant about something, because you always think of new problems, you always work on something new. So it is ever learning process throughout your life. So even at the age of 70, I have seen so many scientists, so many people, they just try so many different experiments, and it is kind of, you just learn in your whole life. You're always a student as a scientist. So this is one good thing, you never become stagnant in your life. And the second thing, that because you have to publish papers, because you have to tell your work to others, you have to share your work to others, you have to go to the conferences, as I told. So it gives you a chance to roam around the world where these conferences are taken. So in my PhD life, I visited a couple of countries, including South Korea, South Africa, Portugal. So this is a fun experience where you get to see so many places, you get to meet some other scientists in your field. So these are the very good benefits of being or doing PhD. Now, I'll tell you, there are some different fields. So when actually think of becoming a scientist, there are some different courses which are offered by different universities. Some people call astronomy, some people call astrophysics, cosmology, space physics, and then we get confused what we should take. So there is a very little difference for these fields. So astronomy, when we talk about astronomy, it is the simple. The experiments are so designed that you measure the positions, luminosities, motion, and other physical characteristics of the celestial objects. So this is a kind of observational thing. When it comes to astrophysics, you have to go into details of those observations. It means that you have to think as a physical way. What science is there behind these motions? So say sun is revolving around something. Okay, sun is also at the off center of our galaxy. So sun is also revolving around something. So that is, say, your observation. Then you have to think of why that is there. If it is elliptical revolution or elliptical orbit, why only elliptical? Why not other paths? So all this comes in astrophysics. When you talk about cosmology, the cosmology is something which consider largest structures and universe as a whole. So when we talk about astronomy, it is kind of one single object or smaller object. But in cosmology, a big things are being taken care of. And when it comes to space physics, which I am actually working on, it is related to Sun-Earth system. And sometimes it is extended, the knowledge of Sun-Earth system is extended to other planets in our own solar system, which has atmosphere or magnetosphere. So whatever we learn from our Earth system, that we actually try on other planets too. So this is about space physics. In space physics, we don't actually, think about other stars or other solar systems or exoplanets. That does not come under space physics. Now, all these fields, they have two approaches, theoretical and observational. Theoretical means you just you do calculations, you try to find some equations to fit those observations. And the observational means you have to do some experiments, you have to design some technology basically, so that you can probe and understand those things in the space. Now, coming to when one talks about technology, it goes in engineering field. The related engineering fields are, you can take aeronautical engineering, aerospace engineering, and robotics is also part of this field. So aeronautical engineering deals with the technology related to aircrafts, whereas aerospace is little bit extended to spacecraft. And when it comes to robotics, it is just development of robots, which some robots are used in space fields. Some people plan to send robots in space. So this is something called robotics. Now, how to become an astronaut is that a basic requirement. Now you know that NASA is the big agency which actually send the astronauts in the space. So basic requirement for NASA is to have a bachelor's degree in engineering or any biological science, physical science, or computer science or mathematics, followed by some 3 years of professional experience, or one has to have 1,000 hours of pilot and command experience in aircraft. So this is what an astronaut has to first learn and then become an astronaut. And this is not the end. Okay, after that one has to go to the training and all those things. So when we know two famous astronauts from Indian origin, we say that. So if we think about their profile, so Kalpana Chawla, she did BE first, aeronautical engineering, then she did MS in aerospace engineering, she did her second master's in aerospace engineering, and then she did a PhD in aerospace engineering. So this is her profile to become an astronaut. Whereas when we talk about Sunita Williams, she did BSc Physics, MSc in Engineering Management, and then she joined US Navy and she took a pilot training in US.